why should somebody become an ADU investor?
Cranes in the air, beware. So if you see a lot of cranes, that means more rental units coming, and therefore rental prices could be decreasing. There's this void between the investors and the contractors. Jobs don't get done on time, and the money, like contractors never paid on time. So there needs to be this middleman. As important as social media is, can't really replace that. Meeting someone, shaking their hands, they see that we're real and we're not just like, the online guru. They see I'm a real person with a real hat.
People are gonna judge regardless, so you might as well just do what you're doing.
On Instagram, you could do like 3 layers of photos. I put like a Lamborghini at the top, a house on Camino de la Costa, and then the bottom was a private jet. Oh, if I get these things, that will attract me.
Yes.
I was like, if I get this, I'm gonna get it. I'm over here like bawling in tears. No. And I'm over here crying in church. If I left the earth today, this is kind of cheesy, but like you are enough. Like as is. Like you don't need.
All right, so I'm back with Chris Luna. How you doing, my man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Thanks for getting me in the studio today. Pleasure to be here.
So I actually haven't had somebody on the podcast who does the investing strategy that you specialize in. So why should somebody become an ADU investor?
Great question. What I like about ADU development is it's practical. You don't have to be Donald Trump or these big developers who have access to capital, access to loans, access to the best architects. You legit can go and hire someone in your city today. You can line up the debt to build this thing. And what I like about it is practical. If you already own a property, you're halfway there because you own the parcel and you have the right to do it, especially in California.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of other cities across the U.S. that are becoming more ADU friendly. And so I think it's a great way for someone to learn development with the intent to maybe flip it and or keep it for cash flow.
So to backtrack a little bit, what does ADU stand for?
Accessory dwelling unit.
Okay.
Think of it as like a granny flat or a casita. Mom and dad would put older grandma in the back house because she's older and, they want to be able to watch her. So similar to what our parents called a granny flat or a casita.
Perfect. And which markets are your favorite right now for ADU development? Obviously San Diego.
Yeah.
But where else?
San Diego is the best in the world. There's some other markets that are looking really good. Austin could be one of them potentially. Just Austin's like booming right now. I've actually spent obviously a lot of time in Cincinnati. They just approved that October 2023. Problem there that I see right now is you can only build 1 ADU. That's not great, but it's a start. Yeah. And what I like there is based on what you can build for and what it can rent for, those numbers usually look good. One last problem over there in that area is that sometimes the owner needs to live in one of the units. So it's more so for them solving a housing problem, not really for investors. For San Diego, it's like for investors and solves a housing problem.
So just in San Diego specifically, what does it cost me to go build an ADU on a property?
Yeah, so for 1,200 square feet, which is the max you can build anywhere in California by right, it's looking about $225,000, $230,000 for construction. Plans and permits, call it $20,000 to $25,000. So all in, you're in it for $250,000.
Okay, and when can I make my money back?
Depends. If you're in a great rental market, such as the beach or student housing, you can make your money back. I see cash on cash returns of 25% on some of my deals. So that would mean that we'd make our money back in 4 years. You'd get all your money back.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so which markets, like you said, like the college areas, obviously, by the beach, is there anywhere else that you like to really pick on or choose for these markets?
Yeah, I like the beach, and here's why. If you're familiar with San Diego, you're from there. And so by the beach, you are capped at a 30-foot height limit.
Oh, interesting.
And so I want to say something. You should know a lot of architects. So the architects, they're like the geniuses behind it. I just talk to architects all day and I get all the info and I learn what to do. But they would tell me, hey, Chris, in Pacific Beach, Ocean Beach, you can only build 30 feet. Okay, I love that because barriers to entry. There's no one else who can build 7 stories, meaning there's less supply, meaning rents go up, better for the investor. Now you go into a market like 92104 in North Park, people are building 7 stories, 70 feet height limit and 60-foot height limit. And what's that mean? It means that there could be overdevelopment in the area. Like Grant Cardone says, cranes in the air, beware. So if you see a lot of cranes, that means more rental units coming, and therefore rental prices could be decreasing.
Got it.
So I'm always looking for barriers to entry.
That's sweet. So how did you even get your start in all this?
Yeah, I went to San Diego State, which I think you lived on, like on the same street that I own a lot of properties on.
Yeah, that's so funny. I saw when I was talking about for the podcast, your post was like right down the street from where I was. I'm like, oh my God, it brought back memories. So it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Small world. So I went to San Diego State and I saw a need after I graduated. I was like, well, I had nowhere to live. I'm sure these freshmen and sophomores have nowhere to live. I had buddies already buying properties around San Diego State. And I thought to myself, well, they've already created success. They were stealing these things back in the day, 300, 400K.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what if I came in here and I paid 600? Does it still make sense? Hanging with my buddy Matt last week, and he goes, you were crazy back then. You were paying 700K for a house. Everyone thought I was crazy. Now looking back on it, that would be a steal.
Yeah.
So yeah, just seeing other people create success and latching onto that, learning from them, studying their moves, and then also managing their properties as a property manager.
And now today, where are you at portfolio-wise?
Yeah, so we manage 50 units. Some of those are mine. Some of them I've sold off. I've moved into, instead of owning 25% here, 17% here, these smaller deals, into 100% of a big deal on Montezuma that I own.
Nice.
We have plans to grow, the portfolio from the 50 units in San Diego to many more, because we have a backyard. We call it the backyard community, and in that community, I'm teaching people how to develop units. So as my students go and build in San Diego, we'll end up inevitably managing their units.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And what's on the roadmap for the rest of the year?
Roadmap the rest of the year. We're going to lean into doing more events. What I've learned is, as important as social media is, I love it. It's very scalable. You can't really replace that face-to-face contact, meeting someone, shaking their hands. And when we throw these events, I often see that people want to be a part of our community after that. They see that we're real and we're not just like, the online guru is what people call it. They see I'm a real person with a real hat. I'm a real person. So, so leading into events and then turning that into, okay, how do we do education with them, management, construction, basically going vertically integrated all throughout San Diego.
I love that. And I mean, you mentioned it too. And that's actually how, we got connected, was through events. Once you're actually able to like connect with the people that, again, you see online or they follow you, like they know, like, and trust you way more. Yeah. And I think you're in the education space, and we've talked about this a lot, but it's just changing. Like the way people buy coaching now is just so different. They like back in the day, in 2020, 2021, 2022, people would just buy a program for like $5,000, $10,000. They'd drop $25,000 on a coaching program. Yeah. But now they've done that a couple times. They've either been burned or they're just don't have as much capital available. Yeah. So they have to come to like an event, like, what is it? Margaritas and Mingle?
Margarita and Mingle. Let's go. The branding's working.
Yeah. So you got to go to like one of those and again, shake your hand, understand what you're doing, and like take a look under the hood. That's why, like, again, we're so big on it, and we'll do like the workshops here. Yeah. Just because once people get to see the office or see the studios, then they just like, oh, the light clicks.
It becomes real, right? Yeah. And I'm so thankful for the wealthy community. And I think back then it was called Future Flipper.
Yeah.
But I was leaving a WealthCon one time, and there was something, like literally my bags were packed. I was about to head to the airport. This was, I think, 2022 after the penthouse party.
Oh, yeah.
And I was on my way. Actually, maybe it was before that. But I was walking out, and something was just telling me, like, turn around. So I walked back into the event, and I signed up on the way over there, paid the $5,000 or whatever it was. That program, Wealthy Creator, changed my life.
Yeah.
It showed me step by step how to do it. And I'm so thankful because it gave me confidence. And as I started to get more engagement from my audience, I was like, whoa, this works. I'm going to keep doing this. And that's turned into deals, turned into new investors, turned into new clients. And so it's cool. You can really change someone's life with education.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as far as the education goes, like, what does your offer look like in terms of like, what are you guys doing, are the different levels, et cetera?
Yeah, there is basically 2 levels right now. There's a course that I would actually steer people away from. I would prefer them not to do the course. The course is $2,000. If you want to do that, great. It's going to give you step by step. We're going to continue to add value and not just teach you how to build one ADU, but maybe teach you how to build a multifamily development. So there's a lot of value there for that type of person who wants to go and do that for themselves. And people have been taking the course and they're liking it. Someone on our coaching call today was like, hey, yeah, I saw you were talking about this. What does this mean? And so it's definitely helping them. Now, where I think the most value is the Zoom calls. Twice a week we meet on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for about an hour. And on those calls, I'm there and I'm talking about real deals I'm doing. I have my investors in the room. I am transparent. I'll tell people
Love it.
everything. And with that, it's 4,000 and you get the course plus 2 Zoom calls.
Oh, that's
per
a
week,
no-brainer.
Plus access. I mean, 4K, one of my students made 100K after 3 months.
Yeah.
Like
That's huge,
yeah.
man. And how are you acquiring customers right now? Are you doing any paid or is it all organic?
It's all been organic because I've been trying to perfect me, which is kind of the product and like how we run all this. But I have guys who just sent me a script of all these ads I need to start running, kind of similar to Ryan's, where I'm in the kitchen cooking or just like random things.
Yeah,
you know? So I'm starting to work with them, and ads are gonna really.
Are you working with an agency or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, someone who was running ads for a buddy of mine. Their company does pretty well. They were able to scale to some good numbers, and they said this is why we used them, and they helped us with our ads. And
Nice.
so I feel I have the infrastructure now. I have the confidence to coach well and to show people what to do. I think it's time to.
There we go. Who's taking the sales calls?
No one on the sales calls yet. Right now, everything's closed in the DMs.
Got it. Okay, so people are so you're DMing and then people are paying 4,000.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Well, they're closing in in the DMs. I do think at some point I have been on sales calls and I realized it's kind of a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So that
It's not scalable.
Yeah,
especially for you to be doing it, right?
Yeah, I think that's my next move. Is once I see the ads working and I'm seeing maybe deals slip through our hands, maybe that's an opportunity to hire a salesperson who's remote or something.
Yeah. I'd be very curious to see like when you guys do scale, if you're able to get cold traffic to pay 4,000, because it's a lot easier. And I'm not discouraging you or anything, but it's a lot easier to get like that warm traffic. To be like, yeah, dude, like I already know this guy. I've been to Margaritas and Mingle or whatever, and like now I'm way more willing to commit.
Yeah.
And so like, do you guys know if like the percentage? You might not, but like the percentage of like organic / like warm traffic that they're going to market to versus like, are they just going straight cold to try to get new people in the funnel?
I think it's going to be straight cold for some reason.
Okay.
The people who I do see in the community, often it's like, hey, I'm like, come join us for free.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
cool.
like give, trying to get people in there.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think, for me at least, I don't know if I'm making too much. I know I'm not making a lot on the education, but
It's more so to like make it on the back end.
Exactly. So equity, partner in a deal, they go raise money from their parents, boom, that's access to capital I didn't have, property management, construction. So I make money on all these things. And then if they want to sell the property, I'm a broker. So more so about making money on the back end and getting
Love
equity
that.
in the deals.
That's smart. So
Yeah.
how big is the community now?
I think there's 87 people on our school channel. People who show up to the calls, it's like 12 people.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that. I used to get self-conscious about it. I was like, oh, this ain't growing. This sucks. But
Yeah.
Ryan talked about it. Future Flipper, he ran it for a few years. It was 12 people.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with being a small company because it's more so just like pouring value into these people and seeing their lives change.
For sure. And I mean, it's just the nature of education in general. When you go out and you like create this community, there's only going to be so many people that actually end up taking action anyway. Like it's just, I would love if every single person who joined our coaching changed their life and started flipping houses or starts creating content like you did, or they start scaling their coaching, whatever it is, right? I would love if 100% of people do it, but like that's just not the facts.
Yeah.
Like people will pay something and then expect it to just happen, but you got to take action.
Yeah,
you got to show up to
exactly.
the calls and all that stuff. But
Exactly.
I'd rather pour into, like you said, the 12 people, or I mean, shoot, we have like 1,300 people in our communities. We have one call a week with Ryan where every person in the community is allowed to come. We have like maybe 200 people on that call,
Wow.
which is still a lot. Like,
Yeah.
it's great, but like it's a fraction of the amount of people that are in the program.
Yeah.
I'm like, so it just is what it is. So now, you're pretty forward with your faith too.
Yep.
And tell me, has that always been something in your life, or is it pretty recent where you've started to like really be a lot more public with it?
Yeah, great question. Grew up Catholic, kinder to 12th. I sang in the choir.
Nice.
And I was just telling Ryan this on the podcast prior to this. A lot of the common theme that me and the guys from my church, what I all noticed is we all grew up Catholic. And then we fall off during college. We're drinking, partying, all that stuff in a fraternity. And you feel a void, something's missing. What is it? Spiritual loneliness. And then like you're at end of your 20s, you're like, I got to figure this out. So, yeah.
I relate.
Yeah. So that was me. And so end of my 20s, I slowed down on drinking. Maybe I'll go 5 months without drinking. I'm feeling better. I'm taking that energy and I'm moving it towards triathlon training.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm starting to like do new things, but I'm still missing something. It wasn't just until maybe about a year and a half ago Liam, who was running my sales at the time, he just reached out to me and he kept pursuing me. I could tell God was pursuing me through him. And there was something that was different about our conversation. Like the Holy Spirit was just on him. I could feel it. And I didn't know that at the time. He invited me to church. First time stepped into a Christian church. I didn't even know there was a difference, honestly. And we're singing and we're praising and we're worshiping. And ever since that moment, I go every Sunday. I have a relationship with the Lord. Obviously, I dated a girl who is very, has a great relationship with the Lord too. And so I had a lot of people. I looked around. I woke up one day. I was like, man, I have so many people around me who are Christian and strong in their faith. And so it's been good. I feel more calm, more at ease, less anxious. I'm able to sit here and do these podcasts and not get nervous. I do live streams with Brandon. And so all in all, I could just feel like that void I was missing that I was trying to feel with drugs and alcohol and the success. It's gone.
Yeah.
I just feel good.
Yeah. So prior to having a relationship with God, like, what do you feel like you were really pursuing? Like, what was like, how were you trying to fill that void? And you kind of answered it, but like, what was like the thing that you were like the most focused on? That's
so funny because it was probably like March 2023. I have a screenshot of like, on Instagram, you could do like 3 layers of photos.
Oh, yeah.
I put like a Lamborghini at the top, a house on Camino de la Costa, which is where Grant Cardone lived, in the middle in San Diego and Bird Rock. And then the bottom was a private jet. And I was so focused on thinking, at the time, like I was trying to pursue this girl. This was like early 2023, different girl. And I'm trying to pursue her, and I'm thinking like, oh, if I get these things, that will attract her. I was like, if I get this, like, I'm going to get it. And it was such the wrong mindset, and I didn't end up dating that girl at all. But a year later goes by, and I look at that photo. I was like, what were you thinking? Like, you thought you needed that stuff to be made whole? So those were the things I was pursuing. Rolexes. I had a penthouse. Let go of the penthouse recently. Sold my Rolex.
Really?
And I'm going to get a new one.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's like there's a season for that. And then
100%.
The season I'm in is like growth, expansion, and make an impact on the kingdom.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, I think, like, early on, and even like up until kind of somewhat recently, probably within the last like 2 years, it's the same thing where I was just so focused. Like, once I make the money, once I have the house, once I have the car, then I'll be worthy, or then I'll be like, people want to come to me, or like I'll attract the right mate and all that type of stuff. But then once you like make room for God, and that's like the main thing in your life, then it makes everything else just kind of ends up coming to you anyway. Right? So I think that's huge. So how do you feel like, bringing God into your life and then now into your business has made you a better entrepreneur?
Oh, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
Because I know in the past how I would act towards an investor. If say I was in the right and they were in the wrong, or they were accusing me of something, we didn't send them this report, the loan's gone sideways, all this stuff. And now when someone could be attacking me because they're having a bad day or something, I can have empathy and be like, I see where you're coming from. So a lot of what I read in the Bible, there's so much wisdom. Even for the people out there who aren't believers, you could read the Bible and there is just so much wisdom. And if you could take that wisdom and apply it to your life, and we talk about the fruits of the Spirit and all these things, be a little more peaceful, less anxiousness, like everything changes with your relationships because you can approach it from a level of, mainly for me, empathy and like understanding where this person's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of like the principles that we value in terms of like, hard work or, just all these other business principles, they're all biblical. If you really look at it, like I remember when I was first, because similar to you, I grew up Catholic, fell away from God for a long time, like in college, all the way up until just recently. And same thing, drugs, girls, just not a good life. But the thing that I look at, like all these good principles that I thought about business or about like making money and all this other stuff, like there is some element that is from the Bible, like the pure part of it at least. And so I think it's just anyone would benefit from reading the Bible is what I'm trying to get at, right? Like just like you mentioned. And so is there any like verse or anything that's kind of like been sticking with you lately?
That's a good one. There's so many verses. I'm gonna admit, like I'm bad at remembering verses.
No, you're good.
But I think like a general theme that like that I really like. I'm in Corinthians right now.
Okay.
And it's talking about Paul, how he's in prison, and in prison, people could be people can be thinking, Paul, how can you be in such a good mood still? How can you be like the storm is coming? And it's in this time that he's still preaching the gospel. He's still staying true to the word and what God's calling him to do. And I think that's the season that I'm in right now. Like, I have a lot going on, and it could feel a little overwhelming, but I know I have a good foundation. And I think back to Paul in that prison and him writing these letters into, like, to spread the gospel. And I feel like that's what I'm called to do. As God's given me more influence, he's given me this microphone, he's given me, my small little 7,000K following. Like, he's given me this opportunity to help people. And I mean, 7,000 people. I know we laugh at it, but if
that's huge.
I know, but like that many people in a room is crazy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
30 people in a room is crazy. And
100%. Like, and we talk about all that time in like creator and just like anything else. If let's say you get 100 views on a video, like people think that's a flop, and you're like, dude, that sucks. But 100 people who like in an auditorium or like in a conference room, that's crazy. Yeah. So I agree. Like, it just, and one thing that you mentioned about when Paul was locked up, and there's a thing of having joy no matter what, and like no matter what's going on, especially as an entrepreneur, you do deal with so much stuff. Deals fall through, an employee does something stupid, partner F's you over, like whatever it is, like, but as long as you can have joy in that moment and just keep on showing up, like that's such a great biblical principle that, like, 100%. I think, and we have a lot of people that come on the podcast or that we just interact with that are super successful, but if you ask like 8 out of 10 of them, how happy are you? Or like there's always a void missing, or they have a messed up relationship with their kids or with their spouse, or they're divorced. And I think it's just, the main thing is just God's missing.
100%.
So it's tough.
Yeah. Before God, like, I actually had, some people come into my business and then leave. And sometimes I would feel like the spirit of rejection, like, oh, you came and joined me and then you left. I'm like, that's kind of annoying. I taught you everything I know. But now I could see it from a different point of view. It's like, well, like, they were here for a season of my life. They learned, and then they moved on so that they can do whatever God has planned for them. So even from a perspective, because, people hop around companies. And so that's been cool too, to just be like, oh, it's okay. Like, I wish the best for you.
Yeah. So business-wise, how big is the team now?
Not too big. Like, what I'm seeing is people in my community. Like, I have a fund, and there's TJ and Josh helped me with that. I have a construction company I'm starting. We're working on getting our GC license.
Why?
But it's more so of like a brokerage of construction.
Elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go and like hammer or like talk to an inspector. I got no business doing that, but I have done it. So I can get my GC license, but more so, okay, I know all the great contractors, right? There's this void between the investors and the contractors. Jobs don't get done on time, and the money, like the flow of the money is like, contractors never paid on time. So there needs to be this middleman who makes sure the job gets done, who calls the inspections, who keeps the timelines going on. And so what I noticed is I've already been doing that since 2016 on all my jobs, and I never got paid for it. It was part of my 50% equity plus the money I had in it from the commission I rolled in. So I thought to myself, why don't I start getting paid X amount, let's call it a percentage, on the total construction job. Say the ADU costs $200K to build. I just want to make 5%, 7% of that, I tack it onto the fee, and then I pick the contractor and I hold them accountable, and I have my GC license. So it's basically a broker of contractors.
That's smart.
Yeah, I think my buddy already does it. It's $1 million business for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how do you manage your time as an entrepreneur who has kind of their finger in all these different things? How do you prioritize?
I think that when we have the community meetings where we're teaching education, inevitably, if I'm teaching Josh and TJ how to do a deal, which is what I've taught them the last 3 or 4 months, that has turned into, now we underwrite deals together that we're going after, and then people get to see that. So it's really just me doing my stuff that I was already going to do on the coaching call, all the new students just to get to learn and see a real deal. And then when it comes to going to raise money, I hopped on a call with the guys the other day, and I didn't even have to say much because they've already learned how to do it. So it's more so doing what I'm doing on that Zoom call, whether that's underwriting deals, raising capital, or whatever it is, or coaching my construction guy on like what we need to do in this job. I just get to do it on that call to scale this out. Yeah. So it's legit is a community in which, as long as I'm transparent and tell everybody what I'm doing, I don't have to do as much. And it feels like I was able to buy back my time by making the education calls, which is education for everyone else. They just get to see my experience as I go through it.
Yeah.
That's how I bought my time back.
That's great. And it's just, like you said, it's super transparent too. So people see you as an expert because you're doing the deal, like you're walking them through it, and they're getting value. So yeah, it's a win all the way around.
And then I film content around that, throw that up on the social media. That attracts attention. I then try and get people to come to Margarita and Mingle. At Margarita and Mingle, they meet me, and then that's how they get into the funnel in the community.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so social media wise, this might be a question for Brandon, but like, what are you guys really focused on social right now?
Early on, my thing was post once a day, and I thought that was enough. I've seen that I don't post once a day anymore. I actually post 3 or 4 times a week, and I think that kind of keeps the audience like engaged. Like, when is he going to post again? So I that's exactly what I'm doing these days. I've leaned away from going all real estate. I was posting all real estate stuff for a while, and I think that could just be a little overkill for me. Now I talk about faith. I talk about struggles I'm going with, vulnerabilities. A lot of the stuff that's actually connected more with the female audience is like the vulnerability stuff. And so most of the real estate stuff is with guys.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But now I've leaned into some vulnerabilities. Faith has been huge. To see how many believers come out of the woodworks when I post stuff that I didn't know were believers is pretty cool to see.
It's crazy. And obviously I see it on a big scale with like Ryan stuff and everything that we're doing. One, I think there's just more of a revival happening. Like,
There is.
And I don't know if it's like maybe me just being more in tune and it was always there, or like I just see more and more people who are coming to faith. And I think it's the second one. I think more and more people are just like wanting to be like, there's a need for it.
I think Ryan has a big part of this.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know why I just had like deja vu. It's weird, but like I feel like Ryan's he's been so outspoken about it, and even with all the haters and the people, the naysayers, all this stuff, he stayed true to like what God called him to do.
Yeah.
And I think I know it inspired me. It took me a while. I never thought I'd talk about my faith online. I don't know why. I just felt like people would be judging me. I don't know. I just thought too much about it.
People are going to judge you anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
You just did a post about that the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, people are going to judge regardless. So you might as well just do what you're doing. And I know that's way easier said than done. It's like, it's hard, especially for someone who's not on camera a lot.
Yeah.
Or who wants to start getting on camera. Like, they're going to be a lot more worried about, like, what people think of them. And then, but to come back to your point about how you started just in real estate, then now you've gone a lot broader and you're enjoying that. But that's also kind of what we teach people to do in like creator and just in social media in general. It's like, start off being an expert, like post your real estate stuff or post whatever you're an expert in. But then once you have a little bit of a following, like now go broad, and because more and more people are going to be attracted to you, and then like, because eventually, like, as far as I know, you're one of the few people that really talk about ADUs. But eventually, there might be more people that are like trying to be ADU guys. And why are people going to follow you?
Yeah.
And people are going to follow you because of your faith.
Yeah.
Because of whatever stuff you're posting vulnerability wise. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then one thing Ryan, it just came up on his podcast was, no one's talking about property management, and it's such a big part of like long-term rentals. And I've been a property manager since 2016, so that's something I'm going to actually lean into more. Besides the ADU stuff, but just like, for every dollar you save on a 5 cap is a $20 valuation that you add for the next investor. And so that money can add up. So being a good property manager is something I'm going to lean into.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so how are you acquiring new clients for the property management company?
Well, yeah, I just got my broker's license, so I'm still like forming all the paperwork, getting it all done. I reached out to a big property management company, so potentially just buying a few, maybe buying 30 here whenever I can get those. I'm in no rush to do that because I'm happy with how the company's built right now, and I want to build the infrastructure to really handle it when we're ready. But there's certain portfolios I'm eyeing into just buying them on a seller finance deal. Some guy who's maybe 50, 60 years old, ready to retire.
Smart.
Pay him $500 million, whatever it is for his company, and then seller finance it for a few years. And that's my goal. And then use my social media and reach in San Diego and the events to just become very known. So Backyard Brokerage Inc. It's a real company.
There we go.
Yeah.
And investing wise, do you think you're going to expand outside of the San Diego market, or?
Yeah, I think as I get on more of these bigger podcasts, my audience grows. People see that I actually don't just talk about deals. I'm doing active deals. I'll show you the addresses, show you closing statements. I've been very transparent about that. I think naturally the brand expands. And so with that said is I hop on these calls when we're raising capital, and people, it's two things for internal rate of return, appreciation or cash flow. San Diego, because of the high price to enter, the cost basis is much higher. Therefore, cash flow is limited. You're going to see more appreciation, more or less, unless you get into some of the student housing deals I've done. So with the ADU play on multifamily development, high in appreciation. Now, a lot of my investors who hop on these calls when we're raising funds is they want cash flow. And so there isn't as much cash flow in California. Therefore, I'm looking into markets such as Las Vegas, multifamily, 24 units and up, 32 units.
Yep.
Cincinnati, Dallas, we're looking at a deal right now. Scottsdale, Phoenix, potentially Miami someday. I just don't know that market yet. So
Yeah.
yes, to answer your question, I am looking at multifamily, traditional Grant Cardone, 80-20 GPLP split for cash flow outside of California.
Got it. Love it.
Yeah.
And is there any particular market that you really want to focus on? I know you mentioned like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But like, is it just whichever deal makes the most sense?
Closer the better. If
Yeah.
it was Las Vegas or Arizona, I'm going to be more excited. It's a 45-minute flight, door to door. I can be there, 2-3 hours. As an asset manager to go make sure the property manager is doing what they need to do. Truth is, I don't even think I have to be there as much if you have the right people and team. I tell people to start in their backyard. I don't say to finish in your backyard. No.
I like that.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
Start in your backyard, don't finish in your backyard.
I love it.
That's a good one.
You think there's going to be a backyard con or like a big event that you guys are going to try to put together?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think so. At least one. I was never thinking about that until you just said that right now.
Yeah.
I was always thinking of an event, but I wasn't thinking of backyard con. It makes sense to call it
Yeah.
backyard con. I think so.
Yeah.
In San Diego, once a year. Doesn't need to be crazy,
No, yeah. I mean, dude, even if you got like 200-300 people,
Yeah,
like, that's
that's what I was
huge.
thinking.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how like we started. It was upstairs in the conference room for like a long time. Like when I joined Future Flipper, it was 2020, and there was like 30 people in our upstairs conference room, that glass room,
Yeah.
and those were our masterminds.
Yeah.
And then it slowly moved to like a convention center. Then we did like some of the cheaper properties, kind of in downtown.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of turned into what it is today.
Ryan was just telling me he's
Yeah.
sitting in that chair, telling me the exact story of how it's progressed, and it's very inspirational to get around guys like you guys because you've really paved the way, and it's cool because it's inspirational to see what is possible.
So, who's your favorite influencer
Grant
slash
Cardone.
person? Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't finish the question. He's just been such a good impact on me. But, maybe not from like the faith perspective, but
Sure. Scientology.
Yeah. But as far as like being able to like captivate an audience and to go on stage and make people laugh, like that has always been a dream of mine.
Yeah.
And the podcasting and the live streaming we do is just kind of the gateway into that.
Yeah.
To be able to speak, just like on demand. So Grant. For sure.
And he has such a compelling voice
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like it's funny. I mean, because I still help out with like sales, like on our sales team and stuff. So I was listening to the Closer Survival Guide recently, just to like brush up, and I just love his voice.
Yeah.
So, and it's so charismatic. So yeah, I love Grant, and I definitely credit him to like me getting into like the personal development space. When I was first listening to like audiobooks and stuff when I was young, it was Grant, like Tony Robbins. Jim Rohn, like all those like early books and
Yep.
like audios. And yeah, so his voice definitely, like there's a little bit of Grant in the back of my mind at all times.
I'd go to bed, sleep, like I'd fall asleep to 10X, 10X Mentor. There's an updated version, Sell or Be Sold, Be Obsessed or Be Average, all his YouTube videos, the multifamily, like I know Grant's stuff well.
Yeah.
And I was in his community too, which
Yeah.
helped expand my brand.
Which community did you join?
It was
like,
the Real Estate Club.
Okay.
Yeah, Real Estate Club. He got me on a TV show, The Cash Flow King.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing that.
You guys filmed it here too.
Yeah,
I
so
think.
yeah, he filmed in our conference room.
Yeah.
And so tell me about that experience. Like, what was that like to like be on the TV show, and what were you guys doing?
Yeah, that led to a lot of like what I'm doing now. It was August 2022, or maybe July 2022, right after I golfed with Ryan.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, this is my first time paying for golf and like doing like these events. And Grant's people were all over me trying to join the Real Estate Club. And at the time, I think it was like $25,000. But he said you could do a payment plan. So it's like, okay, I'll do the payment plan. Did that. A few weeks later, after I committed to it, this was July 2022, I get a call from them. They say, hey, do you want to audition to be on TV? I'm like, sure. And I had nothing at the time. I didn't have a microphone. I thought I needed all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I created a set kind of like this for my first Zoom call, and I land the audition. I get the spot. Me and 10 other investors in San Diego pitched Grant Cardone and Ryan Secco and Sabrina, his daughter, a deal. It could be one that we owned or a potential deal we looked at. I had a $3.85 million apartment building at the time that I owned. And my partner pitched him on that one, and then I pitched Grant on a 65 unit in Claremont that I wanted to buy with him. And the episode isn't out yet. I heard it's coming out maybe to Netflix or Apple TV. We'll see.
Yeah.
It was a really cool experience. First time hanging out with Grant. He is just who he is on camera.
100%.
Like, he's the same guy. And I think that authenticity is what everyone loves about him. Like, he'll crack a funny joke because he feels like it, and that's just who he is.
Yeah.
And so just being around his presence, like, it taught me that, dang, like, I can do this too. Well, I'll say one last thing to it. It was in that moment I was like, okay, I'm done filming. I'm gonna go about my life. If this show comes out in 6 months and people land on my page, I don't look legit. I kind of just I had been doing real estate, but I didn't look legit. So I was like, okay, time to start producing social media. Time to get the podcast. Time to build the following. And 2 years later, the show still hasn't come out, but I built a following, and now I'm here with you. I'm here with Ryan, and
Yeah.
a lot of good has come from it.
Absolutely. And there's something to be said about like having some sort of deadline.
Yeah.
Like obviously it was you thought the deadline was a lot sooner,
Yes.
but like it made you want to start working and like get in and creating content and like having the whole thing, and you're
100%.
like you're way better off because of it.
Yeah, someone landed on my page now, they'd be like, oh yeah, this guy's legit.
Yeah.
I think they think that.
Yeah, I hope so.
No.
Otherwise Brandon's not doing his job.
Yeah.
And so, I've met Grant a couple times, and you're right. He's like the exact same. Like like, obviously, there's an amplified version when you get on camera and you start talking and stuff. But it's really cool to see, and very sharp, because obviously he gets a lot of flack for like just being kind of clickbaity and stuff, and that's kind of what you got to do as a marketer.
Yeah.
But super sharp guy, like really really smart. Which
Yeah,
I think
he didn't drink. I don't think or maybe he drinks a little bit now. He dabbles, but like for 30 years he didn't drink. And I thought to myself, there's probably some correlation between him not drinking, his sharpness level, his ability to show up, take the 10x action because he's so clear-minded.
Do you still drink now?
No.
Really? How long
I've
have you been
drinking-
sober?
It's been 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Happened in the church. Pastor was telling a story. The pastor was in town that day from Idaho at the church, Captivate Church in Point Loma I was going to, and I felt like God was like speaking to me that day. I started, but like Tessa was to the right of me.
Yeah.
I'm over here like bawling in tears. This is like the first time she came to visit me.
Oh, no.
And I'm over here crying in church.
That's probably good.
Yeah. Well, but it was just my truth, and
Yeah.
I felt it that day. And then she was like, "You should go up and talk to him like after the service." So I went and talked to him. He prayed over me. I had never been prayed over like that. I happened to record the conversation, which was great. I listened back to it, but ever since that day, I was like, "I'm done." And I was at what was the festival we were at? Horizon Festival this weekend.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that's a festival I'd typically be partying and drinking
yeah.
and going nuts. Zero alcohol, complete sober, feeling the music, feeling good. And I was like, this is how God intended me to be. I feel so at ease and at peace. So no drinking for me. I don't think it's it's just not for everybody. For me, I just know the person I become when I drink.
Yeah. And so I go through waves. Like right now I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
But the less I drink, the better I feel,
Yeah.
and then it just becomes more and more clear. Like I've progressively been drinking less and less.
Yeah.
Granted, I did go to a bachelor party like a month ago. I did drink there, and that was bad. That's kind of what made me stop.
Your own bachelor party?
No. It was my buddies. It was out in Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
It was cool, man. We got like rented a house and did the whole thing. Beautiful area out there. I started looking at real estate. I was like,
There you go.
But anyway, so since then I was like, all right, dude, I got to chill out. Like
Yeah.
I'm drinking too much.
Yep.
But anytime that I go, like my longest stint was I think like 3.5 months or so, and like I just felt the best there, and because
Yeah.
you just get your time back, and then also again the sharpness, the clarity.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's like thinking about is like sober curious?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people use willpower, and the willpower will only, because I've done that.
Yeah.
I'd go 3 months, and one time I think I went 5 months, maybe 8 months total one time, but with like a little relapse in between. That was so what I'd say is a lot of people use willpower, and I think you need to look at it a different way, and you need to realize that the alcohol sometimes is just feeling a void in something that you feel is missing. But if you realize that you're loved by God and the people around you, that void, the void will be filled. And I think a lot of people are filling the void with alcohol, and you are enough as is. And just to be able to remember like the conversations 100% and to be completely present is far outweighs any like highs and lows you'd have of partying. Like to be fully present is
For
where
sure.
it's at.
Yeah, that, and I think there's also the chemical imbalance, and like people have like anxiety or whatever,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and so like you drink a lot, and then even if you didn't say anything dumb, odds are you might have anyway,
Yeah.
just by being messed up. But and then the chemical imbalance, and then waking up the next day of like being anxious, and then the whole day's wasted, and then I mean, dude, 3-day hangovers are a thing.
It's a thing. It's a
Like,
thing.
especially as I get older, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And so like it just throws everything off.
Yeah, the day after, like say you party Saturday, the day after Sunday, like that day's shot.
Exactly. And then especially if you want to, as a leader and as an entrepreneur, you want to show up on Monday, like being your best, or there's usually stuff that happens like during that Sunday that you typically push off because you don't want to respond to the text message, you don't want
Yeah.
to do. And yeah, so it just snowballs. And
Yeah.
I think that's also a testament to like Ryan. I mean, he drinks, but very like sparingly. And I think that's also how he's been able to like achieve so much
Yeah.
is because he just doesn't get distracted, and then he doesn't have wasted days. And then the days like where I would be hungover, he's still texting and working, and I'm like, dang, dude, like,
Yeah.
no, there's no question why people like that, like Grant, Ryan, are successful in where they are. I think it's partially because of
Yeah,
the lack of alcohol.
100%. You get all your time back. I mean, we do a live stream every Monday. I got to show up for that, and like I'm live on camera. I can't be
Yeah.
tired or hungover for
For
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Do you have like a morning routine or like a
I think
thing
I-
that you stick to?
I think I used to, and I'll go in waves. Sometimes I'll be psycho and be waking up at 3:30, 4:30, 5
Yeah.
a.m., hit the gym. It's always I'm in the Word for not too long, like 15, 20 minutes. I'll be
That's good.
drinking my pre-pump. I'll go hit the gym, come back from the gym, stretch a little bit, likely go on a walk, get my coffee, in the office, the home office, on Zoom calls by 8 or 9 a.m.
Do you guys have an office space?
No, but I think Brad Lee said it recently, and it kind of struck a chord with me.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, all the real big ballers, like all the guys I know, they all have offices. He's like,
no.
Yeah, he's like only the gurus, the online gurus who don't have offices, those are the fake ones. And I kind of strung a chord with me. I'm like, man, maybe it might be time for me to get an office.
don't let him influence you.
Okay.
I mean, I love going into the office and like having people nearby. I think there is something to be said for that. But I don't think you need to waste rent money.
Yeah.
Like go. I mean, you can go get like a WeWork or something, and then like just like have something to go into the office like 3 days a week, and just like have team meetings. If don't let Ryan hear this part, but like if I could, I'd probably do like a 3-2 schedule, like 3 days here and then like 2 days if they wanted to come in, they could.
Yeah.
I think it's just better.
Yeah, I think so. So my property manager for that company, she's going to have an assistant soon because she's getting up there. And I think I follow the model of what my friend Matt and Garrett did. And they have, they manage 500 units here, 200 units there. I'm like, well, that's our natural path. They both have offices. I will likely do something similar where it's maybe like a room like this where half of it's a studio for when big people are in town. We can go and film at the podcast room, but also use it as property management.
Yeah, that's smart. And then it's like a content room, so like it's dual purpose,
Yeah,
which I
exactly.
love.
And you get the write-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. So, Chris, if you left the earth tomorrow, what's one thing you'd want people to know?
I thought I was going to leave the Earth today. I had a flight in here, and there's so much freaking turbulence, so I thought it was over.
There's never been a plane ever in the history to go down because of turbulence.
Oh, really?
I read that stat somewhere.
dang. Okay, that's good.
So that's comforting. But anyway.
I have a fun fact. The lady to the left of me, she says, like, oh, I fly into Vegas all the time. You need to get into Vegas early in the morning before the sun.
The wind.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, you knew this.
Yeah.
You're a
But
local.
I didn't, but I, as you were saying, I was piecing it together because like that's another thing that you don't know about Vegas. It gets crazy windy here.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what do you got for us?
Sorry, what was the question? It was
if you left the earth today, what's one thing you want people to know?
if I left the Earth today, this is kind of cheesy, but like you are enough, like as is. Like you don't need the Rolex or the guy following you around with the camera or the podcast. You don't need any of it. Like you are enough as is. God made you with a very unique purpose, and that you are enough as is. Like you don't need to prove anyone else wrong.
Boom.
Prove yourself right.
I love that.
Yeah.
If I was on Brad Lee's podcast, I'd do one of those like, boom. Yeah, bomb dropped. I
Yeah.
love it. Cool, Chris. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Drop your socials.
ChrisJ.Luna on Instagram. I would say backyardbillionaire.com, but I don't want the FTC to come after me. So no, our landing page is backyardbillionaire.com. We are rebranding that currently, but most people can just connect with me on Instagram, ChrisJ.Luna.
Perfect.
Appreciate
All right, guys.
you, man.
Peace.
Peace.
Good job.
Dang, dude, we just cranked that out.
Yeah, that was quick.
That was good.
Yeah, man. Good job.
Solid, man. I appreciate you.